All right, we're live. All
Nice.
right.
Awesome.
So I'll introduce you all to Sky Davis. The way the show format goes, I usually introduce the guests, how I met them, and then let them get their background and then what they're working on. So I met Sky the same way I met Om and Marvin, who previously were on the show. She's a part of a team called Money Captain who applied for the Meta Bronx Accelerator in partnership with Village Capital. So Money Captain was a really cool idea. We really love the idea of what the app does. I'll let her get into it later. But why don't you talk to the audience at first about your background, how you got in, what you did before you started this business, because you have a super interesting background. So yeah, start there.
Yeah, thanks so much, first of all, for having me on, Miguel. I really appreciate it and loving to speak with your audience. As you said, my background is a little unique. It's funny because like a lot of people say that, but to me, I'm like, it's just my life. It's so boring. Yeah, I was born and raised in Harlem. What? H-Town. um, my background is technically in design. Well, at first I was going to be a journalist, but then I realized I couldn't write as well as New York Times, all these people that actually get paid money to do it could. So right around my senior year of college, I decided to go off on a whim and apply for design school, Pratt Institute. And lucky enough, I don't know how, because I'm telling you, my portfolio looked terrible. Believe in yourself, okay?
Exactly.
Just have guts. But yeah, luckily I got in. Maybe I was a pity vote. But I spent 3 years at Pratt for my master's in communications design. So that's specifically like visual design, learning the ins and outs of UI, UX. But while there, we got really deep into like web and app design. And I always wanted to know, like, once we design it, like who builds it. So just by the nature of that, I got deeper and deeper into understanding, oh, there's something called, development. There's something called coding. So while I was at Pratt, I took a class at SVA, PHP, MySQL. Before that, I played with like ActionScript, which used to be Flash, which is now dead.
Oh, that was my love. I love that.
Like things bounce. Like, oh my god, I'm
Yeah.
genius. I can
No,
make
that was the greatest. I miss those days.
yeah. Oh, the web was so much more fun
I
before.
agree. I agree.
We've made it boring.
We
But yeah,
did.
so after Pratt, I actually applied to be in a boot camp for mobile design. It's called Pursuit, which if anyone wants to, if you're a minority in tech, if you want to understand more, I would definitely say people should check that out, pursuit.org.
Pursuit.org. All right, I'll put it up on the. Go ahead, keep going.
So while I was there, I think that's the URL. Don't quote me on that.
I'm checking. I think it is.
I learned iOS development, and after that, again, similar to my journalistic tendencies, I learned that this wasn't like my passion. But I really loved creating things on the web. I loved designing things and then understanding how they were built. So I moved into Scratch.com, which was created by Jam Master Jay, all you hip hop fans out there.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It was developed into 3 vertices. So that was Scratch Academy, where we teach people how to DJ, Scratch Events, where like big companies like, H&M, Pepsi, when they have their big events, they would get Scratch event DJs as well as Scratch weddings. So there I was a developer and designer. And that was kind of like just my career ever since I started, if we, having a career. Right now I work as a senior product designer. So what that means is like still sitting on the edge of like design and engineering. In terms of what I'm building, as you alluded to, me and my team are building an app called Money Captain, which is a personal finance app that essentially using data, tries to look into your past habits and use predictive analytics of when you're going to impulsively shop and stop you from doing that.
Yeah, we love that idea. The way you pitched it was awesome. I guess from what I remember, it was, how when you're about to buy that Starbucks, Money Captain will let you know, hey, do you know that if you didn't do this, you can save yourself some money right now. So that was super cool.
I appreciate that.
So somebody's already saying, look, I need something like that app. So
Yeah,
Jose, what's up, Jose?
me too. And
So
that's funny. Like I feel like there's like a nomenclature, like you shouldn't build things that you need. I don't believe that. Like I need it too, and that's why we're building it for sure.
yeah. I think a lot of people need it. That's why we picked you. We think the way it's going, it's actually a lot of things are teaching people the opposite, right?
Right,
Like
right,
superimpose buy. All these
right,
software is like
right.
addicting people to buy.
Yeah, and
So
I
we
feel
like
like
that.
it's a crazy age because we're getting like less and less in tune with our money. Like, we don't actually spend cash a lot anymore. We like swipe cards and like it doesn't feel real to you anymore. It's like
And
whatever.
things just come out. I just realized Amazon was billing me like $30 a month. I had no clue about things
And
I was getting
that's
charged for.
hundreds of dollars per year. That's money. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't even known if it wasn't for this. Like, you know. So I guess part of what I really loved about your story is the fact that you got to see both sides of building a product, right? The design side and then the development side, and it puts you in a very good situation to be able to build a product like this. And I wish we could show your UX and UI because it's freaking awesome looking. But I know we're in early stage of of launching, so you can't show it. But I'm gonna pull up your site at least so people can download your app. One of the biggest
we
things.
put the live site in. It's we changed it up, so it's moneycaptainapp.com.
Money app. All right, I'm gonna change it right now.
Mm-hmm. Nope, not a problem.
Captainapp.com. All right. Curb your bad money habits. So my internet, I guess, is struggling because I'm streaming at the same time. But
Okay.
you guys go. I'm gonna put the link in the description. But yeah, I think in talking to you guys about your product, I like the roadmap you guys have worked on, and I guess part of what I try to create this show to do is multiple things. Let people know about people like you and their experiences if they want to do something similar. But then the goal is to see how maybe I or the audience can help in wherever you currently are. I know we do this for Meta Bronx, but we've had a little bit of a stall in Meta Bronx because of all this. So if let's act like we're catching up, even though we know it's in public. So maybe some stuff we keep that you don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you that in your development, and how has Corona affected your process, your progress?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's affected us a lot because one of the main kind of core hypotheses we were going on is something that doesn't exist anymore. So like, like pre-corona, like people would be outside, like spending crazy amount of cash, like on brunch, on like Ubers, on all these things. But now people are like, a lot of people have gotten, laid off. A lot of people are looking for ways to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's kind of like, it's been an interesting thing that we've had to kind of pause and challenge our assumptions, not challenge that our app is needed, because we definitely know that it's necessary and needed, but push deeper on less of like, the tacit thing of like the tangible thing of like, oh, don't spend money on ABC, but more so like understanding like what's your psychology around money and like pushing that. Like we have a lot of apps like Headspace talking about like your money, like, your mindfulness and things like that. I think the same can kind of be said for money. Like it's true, like people that are wealthier think about money way different than like, people that grew up like me ever could. And it's not because you don't have like the necessary skill set. It's just because you don't have, you don't have that training. Like,
you don't have the tools. You don't have the tools.
Exactly.
Like that, and that's what I really liked about what Money Captain is trying to do. Like I think the idea of treating money the same way we treat other bad habits like food and exercise, but there's really not many things that treat it that way. They're just trying to show you your bank balance and say, hey, stop fucking up.
Right. Exactly. Which is like kind of useless, right? Like it's like, oh, stop fucking up. Oh, I already did.
Too late. I ate the cupcake.
Right.
So like if are you in a pivot mode? Are you thinking different about the way to come out?
We
And on?
definitely are, and I'm not like I'm glad that we have. I'm not glad this is happening,
Sure.
but I'm glad that something kind of like gave us pause and like made us like really reflect on like, are you gonna help? Like because like even we want to help people that don't even like have issues with like spending a gargantuan like amount of money in Amazon. We want to change people's mentality. So like you can't really do that with only numbers, right? You do need to like really touch and hone on that psychological portion. And I think because of this, we've kind of like steadfastly like gotten into a point where we're like, yeah, this definitely is something we have to focus more on.
Yeah, I think and part of what we spoke about last was not only about saving but redirecting, right? Like spending money on better things, because when you save, you are saving on some level for a rainy day.
Right.
But if you use your money the right way, it can make you more money, and there's all kind of things.
It's like it's crazy to say, but like I'm 31 right now. It wasn't until like my late 20s that I realized that people use their money to make money. And that's crazy to say, like, because some people
they don't teach us. They don't teach us in school.
Since they were like 5, like
100%.
It's strange, but it's 100% true.
Yeah, and that's part of where I listen to this podcast. My dad makes me listen to this podcast called Rich Dad Poor Dad, Rich Dad Radio. I don't know if you remember the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So he has a thing called Rich Dad Radio. Mm-hmm. So he always talks about how they don't teach money in school, and it's set up so you don't know
how
to make money.
Like as I've grown older, like just seeing like even like understanding how like rich people get out of paying taxes and things like that, it's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing that like middle class and poor class are essentially the backbone of America and we don't know it.
And the worst part of it is the rich pay less for everything. Like in every way, the game is stacked for the more money you have, the more advantage you have, and the least money you have, the more your back is being broken.
Yeah.
Like the other day, my dad was telling me, I'm just gonna pay for my insurance for the next 6 months, so I save $100. And I was like, nice to be rich, I mean, he's not rich, but to be able to do that in some essence is right. Like, and we started having that conversation, and it was like, that is like every part of society is like that, like, if you have a better credit rating, you pay less on a car.
Yeah.
If you have a bad credit rating because maybe you have tougher times, you have to pay more for that car.
Yeah. And isn't that like fundamentally like insane? Like the way they picture it is it's like underwriting, right? So like if you're
a risk, right?
You're like a less worthy candidate, but it's still like I need that car to get to work. So like if I lose, I don't want to lose that car. I'm gonna like keep going with that car. But like even by paying it off, you're still paying more than like rich person
and thousands and thousands more, right? Like
matter more to you. Yeah.
So it keeps you in this position, and it keeps like society on a level where you can't get out of it unless you do some superhero shit, right? Like invent the next cool app.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So one thing we have had many conversations about too is AI.
Mm-hmm.
And and just having this discussion, it made me think about how this will change or not, or get worse when AI is collecting data on people and making decisions for you, and other people are making decisions about you based on this data. What do you think about that? Like how do you think the whether it's just a thought, or how do you think Money Captain, will help something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. The sad point of it is I think that's already happening. I know that's already happening.
It is, 100%.
Big banks that already do that. Like,
100%.
Already, which is, it's really sad. Like, so our goal is to kind of, use data to help people figure out a better financial future. Like their data is already being used to say like, in our eyes, we know we can squeeze you from X amount, which is like, we'll cover X amount of our margins, like it's already unfortunately being used, and it's not used in a really good way. Like we hear a lot of
not at all. Not at all.
Because the problem is like when you create something as a maker, and I'm sure you can attest to this, as a maker, like when you get caught up in the excitement of making things, sometimes you don't really think of like, but if I make this, like the after effects of your work. So you have things like, like I was reading this article on how a lot of these like facial recognition, like you have to test everything that you have, like you have to test data, right?
Yep.
So if your definition to a computer, because we know like computers are dumb, computers are smart, humans train them. If you say to a computer, a person is all these pictures of white men, and then you show them a black person, they're gonna be like, that's not like
that's not a person. Exactly. 100%.
Like something as subtle as that, like in your mind, you're like, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just showing you people that look like me. Like you're not thinking of the after effects. And that's like what I feel like is the most dangerous thing that's happening in like AI and technology in general.
I agree. And that's a huge reason why I say people like you are so necessary, right? Like the fact that you thought, okay, what's a way I can use technology and my design skills and my development knowledge to create a solution that will help people like me. A white guy in San Francisco is not going to do that, right? So we have to be the ones to do it. A black girl from Harlem is the only one that's going to care about black girls from Harlem, right? Like that's just the way it is.
I always try to skew towards positivity, and I do hope that white man in San Francisco does hope, care about Latinas, like Asians, everybody else, because you have the most power. But you have your lived experiences.
That's the thing, right? They can't think like you. That's the other benefit of being you, right? Like at the end of the day, they can't even imagine what you've gone through and think about the solution, right? So that's where we have a power, and there's millions of us, right? So if we solve a problem for ourselves,
right,
we win big time, right?
And I think this, oh man, let me not get into this, Miguel, but like I just think like the thought capital and the inspiration and creativity and like minority culture as a whole, and how it's just like stolen kind of away from us and monetized, it makes me so angry.
Let's talk about it. Actually, we have to talk about that. That is
so angry.
No, that is another major thing I like about your app. What you've always said, when we start every conversation with every startup, we have to figure out what path they want to go on. So when we spoke about your app with you, Sky, we said, okay, so what is the exit strategy, right? And I won't go into what the questions were and all that because that's up to you. But the key thing was the data, because if somebody comes and buys you, then they buy your data. And you said, I'm not selling the data. I'm not selling the data. I want to protect the data. And that was super awesome. And we had a very long discussion about this. I remember I recorded it. Haven't put it anywhere yet, but we'll eventually, when this is $1 billion idea, we'll bring it out. So I guess talk about that. Like your because you were adamant about that. And I remember, and I was like, yeah.
Like, to me, it comes down to like, okay, so there are a lot of like different levers to this conversation, right? Like one, I think we're in a unique time that a lot of fintech companies are popping up, and they have the authority that they are thinking a little different than these bigger banks, right? Because the truth of the matter is, like, when you become a Chase, when you become like a Bank of America, and you're like having like thousands of workers and billions of dollars in assets, maybe trillions, like you lose touch with humanity. And that's just the like truth of the matter.
Yeah, and it makes sense.
Life just looks different to you. But there are like a lot of financial institutions like, Chime, that are coming up and trying to like, kind of structure that picture. So when I talk about data, like especially in what we're creating with Money Captain, it's a little different, because it's not only like how you're spending money, because that data is already, that exists in whatever your home bank is.
Credit cards are selling your data.
Right. Everyone's selling your data. But like the reason why it it bothers me is because like it's not only like how you spend money, it's also your money mentality, right? So like to me, it's essentially like, would you sell your diary to Google? Like Google probably knows a lot of
They have
they already did, you know, in some ways. But like I don't know, like in some ways it's like that to me. And I know every company pivots, but that's something that's so like important to me that even if we do get to a place where we are going to sell, like understanding like how are people going to be using data? Because a lot of these companies, like the truth of the matter is they use it to harm their users. They don't use it to help their users.
Yeah.
Because the worse off financially you are, the more money you're making on top of their margins.
That's another thing I really love about your idea. You're not trying to make money on people using it. You're trying to make money on people saving.
Right.
Right. So, and of course, you don't have to get into the business model because I know it could probably change tomorrow. But I really love the idea of figuring out a way to help people, but making money off them being helped. Kind of like with
Right.
I had another person on a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the medical industry, and he was talking about how in China they pay the doctors based on how healthy the patients are.
That is a good idea. Right.
Yeah, so it's like now you have an incentive,
right,
that
to actually
aligns
care about your patients, right? Like
where like you said, these platforms don't.
Yeah, no.
Like Facebook and all this stuff. I know you're watching on Facebook, some people, but Facebook and stuff like that are built to have you more on them, to be addicted to them.
Yeah, and it's funny because like as a product designer, like there's this book by this guy named Nurel called Hooked, and it essentially
I know that book.
yeah,
Yeah.
a player's guide to like how applications keep you like hooked and like the dopamine and like the effect.
Yeah. It's just like gambling. They literally
right. So there's like there's a thing like that again happens like as a maker, you want to make the best product ever, but you also have to, you know, think of the after effects of your product and like what that looks like. I mean now no, but I think like the great thing about these apps like Instagram, Facebook, I mean Facebook owns everything now, but like the great thing about these apps is like they do have the potential just because they have the headcount to like push people on better habits. So like instead of like watching an Instagram live, creating something that you know you going outside in nature and like enjoying it with like your friends or something like that. So like I don't know, it's a crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough time. It's a tough time because we don't really know what we're unleashing either, right? Like at the end of the day, I had a conversation this week about an app that I'm working on, and we were talking about how we need to think about it from the way like Facebook had to think about how can people game this, or how can we be looked at wrong because of this app. Like, so we got to come at it from that angle now, so we don't put ourselves in that position later by mistake.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and like that's a great point. Like I think a lot of good product companies are thinking like that more so because the apps that think that in the like now are the ones that get users to stick on and stay on in the future, I think.
Exactly. And we're heading into a time where I know there's tremendous innovation happening right now. I know it because I'm involved in a lot of it. I know you guys. I know, you know, with Meta Bronx and with all these different things I do. One of the biggest things I try to tell people, especially right now that have the time, because it's kind of a gift and a curse, right? People are dying, but like we were talking about right now, you have a solid month to just spend time in your home thinking about problems that are happening in society and how you can possibly solve them through technology and work on it. Like versus, oh, I have that good idea, but I got to go to my job and I have this, I have that, I have this, and I'm never having time to work on it. So like Money Captain, you've been working on it for a long time and you have a great team and your team is very diverse. And I'm not talking about just in color, I'm talking about in skill set. How are you guys dealing with right now? Like, what are you thinking about and how are you working in this environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're still like trying to figure things out. You know, like one of my team members has a daughter and like, you know, like team members are like outside of New York City. So, you know, we're not able to even be in the same city because, you know, we can't travel together. A lot of conversations that we were having with like banks and investors and like all these people like are now just like cut off, which is good, because like people should, like, for me, I think I have to catch myself as well, because I do admit that I'm not good at this. Like, I like creating and I'm a worker. So like, to me, like, this is not going to sound right, and I will admit that before I say it. Like, to me, it's like when you face something, it's just a blip, right? It's a blip in time. Like, it doesn't matter how like bad that blip is. It's still like, so for me, it's like I'm still working, like I'm still like figuring things out. I'm still thinking about the future. But I do have to realize that like that's not everyone, and like you do have to slow down. Like, you have to slow down and just like take a moment for yourself. So like, on one hand, it's like you do have this time and like all these things, but I think it's also important to just like slow down and like, you know, like make sure you're okay mentally.
So yeah, I agree. I'm not taking that advice right now. I'm working like an animal, but I agree.
I agree. Me too. But I think it's important to understand, like, and just make sure everyone understands, like, both is equally okay, because people deal with stress in way.
That's true. That's true.
Manners.
So that's actually something that I've had discussions about people on different teams that I'm involved in too. And it's like, you know, we have to give each other the benefit of the doubt right now, because who knows how people are taking
the
situation, right?
Yeah,
like you know, so
sure.
you kind of have to either check in with people or figure out a way, because through remote, I've done remote for many years. So I have many of the tools that people may not know about that are just thrown into it. But there's ways to check in with people to make sure that they are okay. You know what I mean? Because, you know, there may be some lag, because sleep times are all thrown off, right? So it may
not you're a parent. Now you're a parent, worker, and teacher.
Yeah. 100%. And I'm an IT guy.
And you're, you know, anything about a computer, everybody, you know.
100%. So yeah, I mean, this is a crazy, crazy time, but I do believe it's probably one of the hugest opportunities we will ever see as being, you know, what we do, me and you specifically. Like, I have a very similar background. I started out as design and animation, and then I learned how to code, same through Flash. So, and then I kept, you know, building up skills, but having that understanding of both sides has really, really helped me in seeing products in a way where most people can't, right? Like, most times you come on one side or the other, so you have a bias, you know, but if you're in the middle and you've seen both sides, you understand both sides. So you can, you know, talk to both sides. So I guess from what I like to do is, because you are one of the people that thought of it and did it, right? There's a lot of people that come up with ideas but don't do it. You have a job, you have a life, but you still did it. I guess part of me wants to understand more about that process for a person like you to talk to the audience, because I know there's a lot of people right now who are in that position. Have a great idea, don't really have the steps, or I don't know, motivation, support, whatever it might be. How did that work for you? How did you go from having a good job in a good industry to saying, you know what, I'm still going to create this thing on the side and make it work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So let me first start off, like, I'm an ideas person, and I've had several ideas, and I've made several half products, half websites. Like, everyone's gonna love this. No.
Preaching to the choir.
Right. So I don't know, like, that's a tough question for me. I think for Money Captain specifically, it's just like a huge, like, it's a passion, right, at this point. Like,
so okay, so I'll change the question then.
Yeah.
How'd you get people to come help you? Because an idea is great. We have 1 billion of them a day. People like me and you come up with thousands of them. How'd you get people to come on and say, I like it, I'm willing to get in there with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've always had the idea for Money Captain, I would say, for like years and years and years. And I've always wanted to create it, but I didn't really have a vision of what it would become. So I actually met my team last year. JP Morgan put on an event, the Startup Bus. They had a team of entrepreneurs of color essentially participate in an event where we drove from Harlem all the way to New Orleans. And the idea was to create.
How many days was that?
It was 3-4 days.
Nice.
4 days. It was a really great experience. It was one of the most, like, memorable experiences. I definitely will say in my adulthood. So I actually met my team there. But
everyone? But your brother's on your team, right?
My brother has
Yeah.
to.
I was like, I think your brother, but I spoke to a lot of people.
So yeah, I actually met my team that way. So it's a little funny because like not a lot of people had ideas of what we wanted to create on the bus. But like first, like day one, second one, I was like, this is what I want to create. I want to create a.
You came with the idea, so they jumped on your. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
And then we kind of just like vibe from there. We got on the bus. At the time, it was called Chia Money, and it was like super gamified.
Sure.
It was definitely not something. So I was the only designer and developer on the team that was working like within like React Native. So the where we were going to try to push it through. Normally, like, so the way it worked is like they had teams from like Silicon Valley, a team from Mexico, like a team from all over. Of course, the Silicon Valley had like 5 developers, like on each team.
Of course, cheating.
Yeah. But like it was an interesting experience. At first, it was called Chia Money. It was like a really big idea for such a small amount of time. We didn't obviously get to finish building it. But that was kind of like the growth spurt of what Money Captain would become. Unfortunately, when we went to pitch it the second time, so they go through rounds. So you have your first round pitch, and we like went on to the next round pitch. And when we got to like the end round, some random guy just came up to us, was like, "Oh, I really loved your pitch." And we were like, "Oh, okay, thank you," because you know you want to prop up everybody, like, "Oh, great job." But unfortunately, I own the word chia, and if you don't stop, I'm gonna have to sue you. And we're just like, "Ha, you're a jokester. Look at this guy trying to this is definitely not this." So we thought he was a joke. Like, you know, we thought he was joking because the word chia is like, it's a word. Like, it's like chia seed. Like, I didn't think you could.
That's pretty crazy. I didn't. Yeah.
I own the word like banana. Like, do you really?
I know. So he did because of, how did he do it? Through app? Because it was an app? Chia?
I'm not sure why he did it. Like, he just told us he owned the word chia, and our name was like Chia Money.
Okay.
So I mean, legally, if we had the resources and we wanted to take him to court, the courts would have thrown out the case.
I actually think it was a blessing in disguise. Money Captain is better anyway.
Right. I agree. Thank you, man, that tried to take this down from day. The funny thing is, like, he took an idea down. He took a pitch down. Like, he didn't take, like, come on, really?
Yeah,
but anyway, we get home and we're just like all pumped up, like, you know, had a great thing. Like, everyone really loved the idea, got really good feedback. And then he sends us like a cease and desist, and it's like, you have to shut down your website, everything that has the name Chia on it. So as you can imagine, that was like pretty demoralizing.
Sure.
So we went through a moment where we're just like, oh, like, this sucks. But then I don't even actually remember how I came up with the name Money Captain. I feel like I was just like, I don't know how I came up with the name, but I came up with the name. And then I immediately, thank you, man, from Chia, I immediately like checked if it had a trademark, and it didn't. So I immediately like just started like that form. And that's kind of how we were rebirthed, not even born, just like rebirthed.
I mean, sometimes that's how, I mean, not sometimes, all the time. That's how it works in startup world, right? You're going to get punched in the face, and you're going to have to say, all right, I don't want that to happen again. What's the next way? And like, you learn trademark, right? Look it up, you know, and you ended up with a better name and better, you know, so there's times where that's going to happen, and there's times where it's going to sink you farther down. So that's what we sign up for at the end of the day as entrepreneurs, period. But especially in startups, right? Like, startup is just fail, win, fail, you know, right? But that's it's, you gotta kind of love it. You gotta love it. And you know, as a person like you that comes from both sides of the world of development and design, damn, I really wish people could see the design of your app. But where are you right now? Has this slowed your product roadmap? You know, because I know, like you said, you're a little bit of thinking some stuff through.
Yeah, it slowed us down a little bit. In terms of development, we're pretty good. We did switch our APIs, so we've been working really closely with Yodlee and Plaid to kind of see integrations of their API. We decided that we couldn't go with Yodlee, like, it was just like it wasn't working. So we switched over to Plaid. So we're now integrating that into the system. But in terms of like the design and development, we're pretty far. In that term. in terms of like what we were talking about, in terms of like money mentality and just like shifting money mindfulness.
Oh, that's a really good. You gotta trademark that. Money mindfulness.
Let me write that down. I think this is the first time I ever said that.
Wow, that's amazing. You got it on camera too. That's what we do at Metabronx, guys.
Seriously.
That's amazing. Yeah. Trademark that immediately. Hurry up. As soon as we get off this video.
But in terms of that, we still have some, like we know what we're gonna do for MVP, but in terms of building, it hasn't been built yet. That's actually like
yeah. But that was always you were on a path, right? You knew you weren't gonna be ready now, and maybe even a few months from now. But now, of course, everybody's rethinking. There's not a business in this universe that's not looking at it and saying, where can we make sure we don't get hit like this again, right? So you have time, but at the same time, what I think is when we come out of this, you're going to be in a great position because pretty much everybody's kind of starting over. Everybody's line iteming their bank statements and saying, all right, how can I save some money right now? So
it's really interesting because like I've been seeing this from a lot of people, which is like, oh my God, I haven't, like, people are like paying off credit card debt because they haven't like spent, like money because they're not going outside. And that's a crazy thing. That's amazing.
That's true, right?
I do foresee like people like a month or two after Corona, people get outside and get to party again. Like their money's going to be going like crazy. Like,
this is a huge opportunity actually for you. Imagine taking the data of Corona and pre-Corona and after Corona,
right,
and using that to be like, dude, you were able to do it. You're able to do it.
We know you can do it.
Yeah. Stay your ass home.
Pandemic shouldn't affect you. You could be better.
Stay your ass home and save $500 a month.
Right. Thousands though. Like people are paying off their like that's crazy.
You're the first person that I hear that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Right. Like everybody, like I've done a bunch of stuff to save money just in case this thing lasts longer.
Yeah, right.
Everybody is doing things, cutting off this, cutting off that.
Right.
But that is interesting. You can have a data set that you may never be able to have again. Like, you know what I'm saying?
No, it's true.
Like,
it's 100% true.
Hopefully it doesn't last too much longer, but it looks like it will because people are dumb and don't want to stay home.
Yeah.
But, so another big question I like to ask people that come on: what kind of help do you need? Because your app is not live, what can people do that are watching to help you, and what kind of help would you need? So a lot of times I say, like for Marvin with Dashboard, I was like, please just download his app. Just by downloading it, you help him. With you, that's maybe signups. What will help you?
Yeah, definitely. If people can, the link that you just sent, just like sign up through there. When they first sign up, they'll see something that asks if they would like to be a beta tester. And then you kind of get into like the exclusive group where you're actually a part of us building this app and what it'll look like in its beta version. So definitely, like if people want to do that, they can follow us. We have social.
Follow them on social. Sorry, I'll get the social media, but I want to just make sure I don't forget this point. Just signing up for a beta helps her tremendously, her and her whole team. I'm going to tell you a story about this company I use every day called Dropbox. Dropbox put out an animation of what their app would do, and it didn't even work. They got 60,000 signups. They took those signups to a venture capitalist and got their funding. Just by getting signups, you help Money Captain become reality. So if anybody who watches this can just go and sign up, as many emails as you can. I know we all have multiple emails. Because if she can get to 5,000, 10,000 signups, then it'll become much easier for her to get raise money.
And I'd also like to like shout out, like you asked this earlier, like people having ideas and like it just not, moving forth. Like definitely like have faith in yourself. Like imposter syndrome is real. Like I have a team of people that are we're all of color. Like we're all like, 3 African-American women and 2 men. And like, there is no one else in the financial world that looks like us, like the fintech agency. So don't let that be like something that you think you can't do. If anything, that should be a motivator as you said earlier, that you can,
100%.
Sure.
Yeah. And that to me is a great thing that I'm glad you brought up. Like, don't look at yourself and say, these are the industries that work for my type of whatever. Go for the best idea, because she's in fintech just because that's the industry that they want to put her in. But she's in the business of solving a problem for a community. Like fintech is just whatever industry they want to drop you in, which is a great industry because there's a lot of money, sure. But the idea she came up with, she didn't come up with it and say, oh, I want to make a fintech startup. She said, I want to figure out how to help people save money or spend money in a better way. And it happened to be in fintech. And like you said, there's no teams like that look like you yet. I'm sure it's going to start getting better and better. But yeah, I've been in a bunch of them.
That is the goal.
So what else are you looking for help wise? I know you said, sign up for you said Money Captain. Is that what? What's your social media handles?
Money Captain, I can send it now.
Yeah.
Let me just do that.
You put it in the chat here. And then like people, of course, investors, right? Like people are always looking for investors, but other than investors, and maybe sometimes you're not looking for investors. I don't know, right? So right now you may be or you may not be. I know because I know more than most people because of MetaBronx.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about where you are at with fundraising or anything like that, you can.
Yeah, sure. We haven't gone down that track yet. We have applied for, like, they have like business grants and stuff like that. So we are, like, Gary is looking into things like that. But again, like, a lot of things have slowed up. But right now, honestly, our main focus is making sure, like, when we hit the market that we hit well. And like when we hit, we are able to serve people in the best kind of possible way.
So it makes sense. And so you can go a little bit deeper because you mentioned Plaid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know what Plaid is, but the audience doesn't know, like, why are you, what is the app going to actually do where you need something like Plaid? Like if you can get a little bit deeper.
That's a good question. So Plaid is a service that provides like banking API. So putting it in a realistic manner, like I bank with, I used to bank with TD Bank. Now I bank with Chime. But so everyone has a different bank account, right? If that's Bank of America, if that's like Chime, if that's like, whatever PNC bank. So when you go to your Bank of America account and you go in and you see your information, what a lot of financial institutions do, these banks don't have API. So if I wanted to build a application using like your data, like I would have to go to PNC and say like, oh, can I get access to your API because your user can really, utilize my app in a great way. So what Plaid does is it takes all of those types of, like TD Bank, Chime, all of those APIs and creates a third-party secure layer that you can then use Plaid to tag into whatever user's bank account is. And then through that secure layer, they send back like transaction information, etc.
So it's basically a way for you to get transaction data from the bank in the most secure way, right? So you don't affect anything.
And it's great because, like, again, like secure is like number one word you want to use. Secure. When you sign up for applications, so like Mint used to do this. I think now, like, they were brought by Intuit, so I'm sure they have enough money to do whatever.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Genius. Yeah, Intuit.
Yeah. $107 million. That was a while ago. I mean, Plaid was actually just brought for $5 billion.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Because it's so hard to tag. Like if we came up and there was no Plaid, we wouldn't really be able to.
It would be impossible. That's the big thing. Like that's what when you said that, I was like, there must have been somebody on their board that was like the Chase CEO, because no way to do that without a super connection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's that's the actual truth. So like I'm really grateful for services like that, and I think because there are services like that, we're probably going to see more and more like fintech apps that are trying to help.
So do you have? And I know you've looked into this more, but I'm just, I don't know if I've asked you this before. Is there any like kind of like laws and stuff that you have to abide by taking data from users?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. There are laws you have to abide. We're not technically a bank yet. So like one of our future goals is to partner with a bank, like Green Dot, like similar
So
to
like
what a lot
to get a bank
right,
charter.
to get a
Yeah.
bank charter. So we can actually, instead of like, we can provide a savings account for people. We can provide like banking services for people, pay forwarding. We would be able to do that. But in order to do that, like, so we're at this level right now where we're taking people's input in, but we want the next level that we want to get to and that we're working through and thinking of is like, how are we able to provide financial services for people? So that's like kind of step 2. But right now, yes, there are laws in terms of like terms of service, in terms of things that we are 100% open with what we collect from people. And again, like we don't sell your data. We're not trying to do that, but expect that your data is already being sold.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, that's one thing that I didn't think about till right now. You're talking about not selling data that you're getting from Plaid, and
That's
Plaid
already
is definitely selling it, right? Like,
yeah, right. Like, yeah, exactly. The reason I think we'll be even like more unique is because like while people understand like your transaction data, if they're not, and again, it goes to design thinking and thinking human, right? Like they don't know like what your money goals are. Like maybe your goal is to like buy a house in 3 years. And for a bank, they don't care. But like that's useful data, which is why it's important for me that like it's not, it's yeah.
but I think you just brought up a good point, and it comes back to the money mindfulness idea, right? If you go to a therapist and you say, hey, I want to have a better relationship with my cousin, whatever, right?
Not your ex, not your ex.
Yeah. They have to align and know what you want to give you advice, right? So
Yeah.
I like that idea of what is your goal. And I remember you had in your UX, there was something like that, like you had like a path that they would go down, and then you know how to help them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you talk more about that, can you talk about anything about that?
Yeah, sure. So in our walkthrough, and again, like I think you were talking earlier about, and I think it's a really important point of like people that sit in kind of the middle of engineering versus like product design and product thinking. Like my product mind is setting the app up for like growth and success, right? So like for our MVP, like a lot of things are stripped down, but we do know it's important to understand our users like starting out. So what you just mentioned, like why are you coming to Money Captain? And because of that, like that reasoning, then we can help you like even more along the road. For MVP, we won't have that iteration. But the goal again is to just kind of segment our users. Like one of our questions is like, as I said, like, why are you using an app? If someone is coming for like just understanding like how I'm spending my money versus like, how can I like, lower my bills? Like that's slightly like different, right?
Sure.
Even your mentality is like a little different there.
So there's an app that I may have told you about. I talked to a lot of people, but I know we haven't spoken in a while, called Noom. Have you heard of that app? Noom?
Yeah.
So I have a partner.
I love Noom. Such a great app.
Yeah. So they do something where they change your habits through like conversation. Like they give you stuff, and then so I have the investor Paco. You guys have met Paco. He uses Noom religiously, and he's like, it's literally changed my habits when it comes to working out and eating.
Yep.
And that's where I think you have a huge opportunity to do a similar thing. Exactly. And if you figure it out, especially targeted towards the minority community, which, like you said, we've been historically denied this type of information.
And it's like it seems so simple, but it's such a hard problem, right? Like it's oh man, I think about this all the time. Like my family members, like you go out and buy Jordans, like you're not going out anymore, but you go out and buy Jordans and it's like $100. Like, will it matter if I tell you they paid $2 for it?
Or if you bought that Jordan in that Nike stock, instead of every Jordan you bought Nike stock, you would have this much money.
Right. So like it definitely is like a psychological thing that does. It's not like like it's interesting with Noom, and it's great because like as you progress, you should be seeing like things happen, right? You're losing weight, like your relationship with like food is different. So we're trying to do the same thing.
Yeah. And that's where we really love the idea of Meta Bronx. We think, anybody watching, especially whether you're a minority or not, everybody has bad habits when it comes to money, unless you're filthy rich. Even you, even if you're filthy rich. And if you're filthy rich, you should be investing in Sky, actually. uh, so I guess, are there any other things you need? People, is there any type of person you want to bring on the team that you've had some time, you have to try to find?
Yeah, like, I mean, that's a big question, right? So you run into things like every week. Like data scientists, engineers, like just as resources and like buddies to just like help, you
Yep.
know, not help in like, you know, I'm not asking like y'all actually like, you know, sit down and write code for free, but like, you know, me and my brother run into like tech issues sometimes, and just like it'll be nice to like have a Zoom call, like, you know, this is what we did, this is what we built, can you see anything that we should be doing?
Sure. No, that makes sense. And I do remember you wanting to have some data science people on the team to help you think through the algorithms and the AI.
The way we're thinking now is like a perfect world, and this is like too perfect, but a perfect world would look like, you know, like some company believes in our idea and gives us like seed funding, and we can then hire like a small team to kind of like build like, you know, the data science pieces, because I don't think that can be a one-off thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Not if thought of like, you know, uniquely. So yeah, that's the perfect vision.
So yeah, I mean, a part of a way that we may be able to connect some dots with, there's some data science nonprofits and stuff like. I've spoken to a few different places that have people that they're teaching them data science and they're looking for experience. And of course, you know, right now everybody has time, so you know, maybe you jump on a project like this and help out a project and become the fifth person in the next Facebook, right? Yeah. So that's, if you're watching and you're into data science, reach out to Sky. How can people find you specifically? Because I know we got money at the back.
So I do love my private social world. So none of my none of my social accounts, you know, are
not LinkedIn. LinkedIn. How about LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm Sky S. Davis on LinkedIn. And you can also like just email at hello@moneycaptainapp.com. And that's me. That's me.
Wait, you said hello@moneycaptainapp.com. Got it.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm gonna put that on the screen. I'm not gonna let people scrape that, you know. Hold on, I'm gonna put that on the screen right now. So yeah, anything else? Anything that maybe a question for me that I can help you with, that because we haven't spoken in a while? Anything?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. I definitely will be reaching out to you. I'd say like pretty soon, as we like we're good enough on our build where we probably are going to be asking for people's feedback soon.
Awesome.
Sooner rather than later. And it's going to be like a lot of user testing as well. It's funny because it's like you wear a lot of different hats, so it's like, you know, time. What is time?
I know. And of course, you have the type of job that you still can do right now, so you're working still.
Yeah, I'm still working. Yeah. Like people ask if it's a full-time job. I'm like, it still counts if you're doing 6 to like 12. Like that's still work. Like, you know,
no doubt. And it takes your best hours out of the day, you know.
Right, but it's still like it's still your passion. Still,
but I had a guy on last Friday. His name is Sean Prez. He interned for him at Bad Boy Records like 20 years ago. He said something really cool. He said, you have to treat your job like a hustle it is, but you have to treat this thing you're creating as your main hustle, and make sure you give it the energy and bring yourself up, motivate yourself to be able to work on it, because at the end of the day, it is more likely to create your future if you put in the time and the effort, right? And now we have more time than ever, but even when it goes back, you have to figure out how to carve out time for your main thing that you want to be your future. You know what I mean? So I think you've done an excellent job with it. You got a team around you. You have a great idea. You know, time is just the issue, and now we have more. So of course, you know where to find me on Slack. Hopefully I've helped you. Anybody who's watching, please reach out to Sky. Sign up for the beta on moneycaptainapp.com. And thank you for watching.
Thanks, Sky, for having me. Thank you so much for having me, Miguel.
No problem. It was great. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.